Come join Melissa and her guests on the Chats from the Blog Cabin podcast. From North Carolina, this podcast will have you feeling like you've known these folks for years. Listen in as they chat about life, culture, current events, and more, all with a special Southern flair. Curl up with your favorite beverage and get ready to be entertained. Tune in now for a unique experience that's fun and insightful.
Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Chats from the Blog Cabin. You know, the show where I virtually invite people into the blog cabin to chat about life. And today I'm so excited that Sherianna is here today, and we're going to talk about everything about spiritualness. She wrote the book Just Ask Spirit, which is a great book, a great read. But before we get into your book and about everything spiritual, tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, so I live on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And this is where I've raised my three daughters, which are 17, 22, and 24, almost 25 now. And I am a full-time writer, author, which comes with a lot of teaching. And I'm also an adjunct psychology professor at our local college. And I'm also the adjunct professor of mindfulness and yoga. I've been doing that for about 16 years. So I've been in the field of psychology to some degree within my own community since 1998, servicing the community, and then again, writing the books and teaching.
We're kindred spirits already. 3 daughters. I have 3 girls.
You do? Okay. How old are they?
29, 20. One will be 27 on Friday, and 21. She'll be 22 in May. So how did you get into the field? First of all, because you're a psychology professor. So how did you get in the field of spirituality?
Yeah. So that started after I took a leave of absence from my job. I was a school psychologist by training, and I took a leave of absence to actually start having my children. I was pregnant. And when I took a leave, I kind of hit a wall. Well, one, I was about to give birth. But after I gave birth, I went through postpartum depression. And I kind of lost myself because I was such a career-focused person. I'm confused whether I want to go back. And I realized that what I had done is I had burnt myself. It was a job. It was like I was doing 2 jobs for the one job kind of thing. High demands. And so when you come off that treadmill, you don't realize, you don't pick up on the signs and the little things. So I got depressed, even though I was a new mom and I was happy about that. And I was grateful for the experience. But I, at the same time, was kind of negative, having a hard time being happy and feeling. So I started going on medication, like a lot of people. I talked to my doctor, went on antidepressants, and I ended up going on 5 different antidepressants in 1 year. I would go on one, and then I'd get the symptoms. I would like, that's not going to work. I'm a new mom. I can't be sleeping on the couch. I can't be dealing with, insomnia. Everything seemed to just not work. So then they looked at my blood levels, and they saw that my liver was elevated, and it looked like the medications were starting to influence me. So I said, you know what? I got to do this naturally. This isn't working. And so that's when I decided, went on the journey of learning how to get out of the depression naturally.
So you call yourself a psychic healer. What is that?
Yeah, I don't know what to call myself. No, I have people that say, I don't know how to describe what you do. I'm like, join the club. I don't either. So basically, what I didn't realize when I was in that school psych position is I was working very intuitively then. I still work very intuitively now. I knew how to navigate a meeting. People would say to me, how did you do that? How did you knew what? And a lot of it is one of the benefits of having the intuition, being able to read other people, read the energy in the room, feel the energy in the room. But I think at the same time, I was taking on too much. And so what I ended up doing, when I left my position, I took a longer leave of absence. I was actually asked to write a book. So I entered the field of writing somebody asked me, and it was a publisher. They came to me. I had self-published a book, and they apparently had read it, and they liked my approach to things because I was all mindful back then. Nobody was doing it. And so I started writing, and then that led into more and more books. But in terms of a psychic healer, I have the ability to read emotions. Some people call it empathy. There is a psychic sense where you can pick up on the energy of people's emotions. As long as you don't judge it, I mean, there's a skill set for it. I always say the emotions tell a story if you let it. And they all have a story. It's important that you let them be told. That's how we heal. Also, I get impressions and I get feedback in other ways, but it's from using the higher psychic abilities, such as they call them the clairs, clairvoyant, clair knowing, clair hearing, clair vision. And so I was in those. And when I started to get trained in yoga, that really brought it out. I knew when I was teaching yoga one day and another yoga teacher came up to me and she said, "How do you plan for your classes? Like what you're going to say, what you're going to do?" And I was like, "I don't plan." And she's like, "You don't plan?" And I was like, "No, I just hear it. They tell me." And that's when it hit me. They'll say, "This person needs this post." I mean, it's a lot happening at once. And I still do that today when I teach at the college. If I feel something, I will adjust. I will read the room and adjust what I'm doing according to what's showing up in the space.
So that leads me to the question. You talk about sometimes it's a lot because you have a lot of them talking to you.
Yeah.
How do you block it out? How do you say, okay, no, I can't right now. How do you shut that off? Because obviously it's something that you have to deal with.
Yeah, it's something I had to learn for sure. And you can either make a request. I mean, you have to learn to be confident. I teach that all the time to people that are looking to get into the field, or maybe they not looking to be into the field, but know it themselves. And you really have to have a strong sense of self. If you're people pleasing, if you're blocking your emotions, if you're minimizing, if you're adjusting yourself according to everybody else, it's going to be a challenge for you. You really have to become confident, and then you make a very clear, assertive decision that I'm not choosing to tune into this anymore. Whatever doesn't serve me, I'm not taking it with me. So sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll be with a client someday and I'll say, "They just will not stop talking. I'm trying to focus on her, my client. I know you have a lot to say, but I gotta tune it. I gotta take a break." You can talk to them and they will respect that as long as you do it in a respectful way.
Now, I've heard it takes a lot out of you physically and emotionally as well. How do you take care of yourself during this?
Well, so I eventually got trained in what's called quantum. Well, I got trained in Reiki, like a lot of people. That was draining the heck out of me. Was in the room, I was picking up on energy and I was needing to nap after, or I would feel like I picked up something and then I would say, "My gosh, I need to go get a healing." Then I would pay, and then I realized I was like, "I'm not going anywhere here. I'm like getting healings and I'm giving healings, but I'm not really making any money at this. This is like," so that's when I literally remember saying it out loud. I need a teacher. I need a mentor, because at this point I'm just figuring it out. I go into a shop, and it was like around Christmas. I go into a shop and there's a Christmas tree and there's a bulb on the Christmas tree, and it's Mother Mary. And I was drawn right to that Christmas bulb. And I was like, "Is this for sale? Can I buy it?" And they were like, "Yeah, they're all for sale." So I bought it for my mother-in-law, and I go to check out, and the woman checking me out says, "You got to meet so-and-so. You guys have so much in common." So it turns out she's introducing me to a psychic healer, gives me her business card. And I call the woman that day and she says, "You're not going to believe it. I have a class tomorrow on protection. You need to protect yourself." And I said, "What time?" And I said, "I'm there." I walk in to take the class and I look, and on her Christmas tree is the same Mother Mary bulb.
Wow.
And I knew I was led there. And I said to her, "Oh my gosh, I just bought that. That's how I found you." And she said, "No, Mother Mary's what led you to me."
That's
And
it.
yeah. And that's when I knew. So I needed a teacher. I needed help. I needed someone to toss around some ideas from. And that's what helped me. I do think at some point you need some guidance.
Did you always have this ability, or was it something that, like, or did you block it? And once you became a new mom and you took your leave, that's when you started realizing you had that?
I know my parents tell me I had it. They noticed things were different
Mm.
when they particularly started to notice when we moved to the country. I talk about it in Just Us Spirit because the amount of distractions were decreased and life slows down when you move to the country. You know, we were always on the go, busy. My parents were business owners. And there it was like we just had more time. And that's when they noticed that I was connecting with spirit. So they would sort of tell me stories, and they didn't say anything directly to me till later. And then my mom was the one who said, "When are you going to write the book?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "When are you going to write the spiritual book? Like, when are you going to tell the story?" You know, and I was always hesitant. I think it's just my psychology training and never really kind of, and I just thought, yeah, but this is, I do. But she was like, "You need to write the book." So she kind of gave me a little push, but they tell me around 11 years old is when they started to see me connecting to spirit.
And the great thing about it is they supported you in that. There's a lot of parents that when their child says something like that, they're like, no, yes, that's from the devil. But your parents supported that spirituality in you, which I love.
Yeah, they were very open, very non-judgmental. My mother's pretty, you know, she's a Christian, but she's open-minded Christian. And I enjoyed that influence from her. She didn't push her views on anyone, but she definitely talked a lot about God. And she did push a lot of books on me. I will say that. So a lot of books, and I did read them. She would share books with me, and I would. Leo Biscaglia was my first one, and then it was all about love. But so she was always kind of throwing little tidbits at me, and just letting it land, but never too much. But definitely supported me.
I love that. Now let's talk about, you mentioned a lot in the book about being vulnerable. So let's talk about the importance of being of vulnerability, of being
Mm.
vulnerable and being open and sharing your experiences.
Yeah, I think that if vulnerability, I know, is so scary for people, they feel like they're exposed or they'll be taken advantage of, or that opens up the doorway for hurt or anything that they were protecting themselves from. But the vulnerability I'm talking about is being open to spirit and being open to feeling your emotions, processing your emotions. I know at first it seems, you know, we're so trained to block them or to control them or resist them. And I feel it all the time. I just, you know, I have a community I lead where we practice because I do think it takes practice. I just led one this afternoon, and right away I can usually feel when someone's blocking.
Mm.
I don't even have to see them, you know, that most people don't even have their cameras on, and I right away I was like, so and so, you're blocking. What's happening? And sometimes, you know, you do need to call them on it because they're resisting it. And so then when we sat with it a little bit in the process, it was all about trust. You can't develop trust without being vulnerable, without being open. So it's a tricky thing because people say, I want to have, you know, love my life, and I want to have a good relationships with people, my children, my friends, my coworkers. I want that to feel healthy and vibrant. I want to feel like people are there for me. That's great. But if you have trust stuff coming in, and that will show up by itself, even when you're connecting with spirit, I'll, you know, call people on it. What's going on? You're resisting. And the only thing is just slow down, just honor it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. That's it. Just honor it.
You talk a lot in the book about spirit guides. How can we know who our spirit guides are, or, you know, if spirit guides are actually talking to us? I will, for example, give you an
Yeah.
example. I
Yes.
felt like the universe was trying to tell me something a couple weeks ago. and I was struggling and struggling. And so a friend of mine said, "Hey, reach out to the psychic because there's a message." And so I did, and it literally left that because it was a Zoom call, but literally left the Zoom call bawling my eyes out, just bawling because everything was on point. But how can we know what our spirit guides are and where they're leading us?
Well, there's a couple ways. Initially, there you can talk direct to spirit, which a lot of people do. Is you can ask, you can get into a meditative state, and you can ask them to reveal themselves to you. But I think sometimes that's like going from A to Z. I think a lot of people just the idea of meditating or being quiet is hard for them. And that's why I recommend the cleanse that I talk about in the book. It's the 7 steps to asking your spirit guides, but I always say feel first. Get into a state of feeling, which is that a little bit of that vulnerability state that we were just talking about. So you could ask them. You can go through your emotions, the process of cleanse, and you can see just who shows up. So it's like either I can call a spirit guide in, or I can go into a feeling state, which is what I do now. And I just observe and I just let who comes in come in. Now, some people get a little scared over that because they're like, I don't want any bad people coming in, right? Bad spirits. Well, that's why it's important you go through those first 3 steps of the cleanse, because it's you're being very clear about what your intention is. What am I choosing here? And I'm not choosing to connect to spirits like ghosts and things like that. I'm choosing to connect to, for me, it's higher consciousness, pure, unconditional. Now, spirit guide can be a loved one. It can be a pet. It can be an animal spirit guide, nature spirit guides. It can be ascended masters. It can be archangels. So I don't think I mentioned this, but as I'm writing books, I'm also, I did mention that teacher. So I ended up training with her for 10 years. So I reached master level quantum healing. What I didn't know at this time was a lot of that was learning to connect with your spirit guides to conduct healing. So it was a devoted thing. I think there is something about choosing to be what I would go with what you're comfortable with. Don't go for something that feels a little scary. Get comfortable. So if it's kind of like when you go to a party and you're like, who am I going to hang out with? Don't push yourself to hang out with people that you don't know, or archetypes or masters. Just choose the ones that you feel comfortable with. Maybe it's Jesus, maybe Mother Mary, maybe it's an archangel, maybe it's a nature spirit. And I would explore there first and get yourself feeling comfortable with the energy of that before you kind of open up the door to a lot of other stuff, because you do want to have a strong sense of self and discipline. You also don't want to be someone that does the stuff if you're drinking alcohol or drugs and you're doing it haphazard. That's not the way that you want. It's not entertainment. And I know it's fun to like go to a psychic and all of that, but you're in charge. Make sure you're in charge of that energy. Don't let yourself. I mean, it's great, Melissa. You had a great reading, but there's some people that don't have great readings.
Sure, for sure. And that's why I was kind of hesitant to begin with, but I'm like, no, I feel like and I asked a couple of friends recommendations, and 2 of them came back with recommendations. So I'm like, with the same person. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to deal with that. I know this person, but these friends who are very spiritual say that this is a great person to do it with, then 100% I was going to do it. But I agree. You have to do a little bit of research too, because there are some people that just want to take your money.
And not everyone can read you. Just because they're good doesn't mean they can read you. It depends. I mean, it also depends on the kind of day they're having. You don't know. I mean, a good psychic or spiritual healer is not. I just canceled someone the other day. I was like, I'm too off. I had a headache, like you and I canceled the other day. And that's a good sign. It's not a bad sign when somebody wants to reschedule with you. That means they have self-awareness. That means they want to show up at 100% for you. So I think that's important.
For sure. Now, you mentioned something that you did with your daughter, spirit walks. So let's talk about
Oh
that
yeah,
because I think that's really cool. That's something that everybody can implement into their life, pretty much.
sure. So the first thing is kind of getting to know your community, and we have a tree that's well over 100 years old. Ah, gosh, I can't remember the name of the tree now, but it's it's a beech tree. Those beautiful beech trees, right, with all the different roots and things like that. And so we will go to that beech tree. And so what I do is I'll just have conversations. We'll sit under the tree. We started to have our conversations about, what the tree felt like. And I noticed as soon as we were around the tree, both of us got really quiet. So we're already tuning into the energy. I mean, if there's a strong root system, you see a tree with a lot of roots, that's extremely powerful. You know how rooted that is. If you touch a tree, if you connect with a tree. So what we started doing was I asked her one day, I said, "Did you want to take a spirit walk?" And she said, "Sure, we'll go see the beech tree." And as we're getting out of the car, I said, "Here's the thing. If it's okay with you, I'm not going to talk." And she was like, "Okay." And I said, and I grabbed my journal and she grabbed her journal. So let's see if we get any messages. So we both started under the tree, and then eventually I wandered over into another area. She wandered over. And so with a spirit walk, you are connecting with yourself and nature, but you're also getting information. And after she and I would talk, I'd say, "What did you get? What do you?" And sometimes you can pick up on energy that lived on the land, Native American energy, and what's cool is we after that is we went to a bookshop, and the bookshop is very, very old. Turns out neither one of us know this. We go in the bookshop and we look at each other, and I said, "I got to leave." And she goes, "I got to leave." And we leave the bookshop. And I'm like, "Did you feel that energy?" She's like, I was like, I couldn't. And it was very, how some old bookshops are very cluttery.
Mm.
There's a lot of energy, or like an antique shop, right away I started feeling other spirits, and I didn't so it turns out we both leave, and on the way out I said, "Yeah, it's interesting, this is energy in here strong." I said to the owner, it's ancient." She's like, "Oh yeah, it's haunted." And I was like, I mean, the point is, when you go out in nature and you do spirit walks like that, you're going to really, really fine tune. There were people shopping in there like it was, another day. And I'm like, "How are you not feeling this? How are you not that, I just, it was just interesting because I just left this whole other energy. All of these things are great lessons for my daughter to learn, for her to learn, you're not crazy.
Yeah.
What you feel, what you pick up on. And you have a choice. You don't just sit in something, and don't question yourself. Do what feels right. You're not rude or something. And you can inquire. She saw me kind of inquire without being judgmental. I was like, "Yeah, there's a lot of old energy." I'm feeling it. And they confirmed it. You are correct. So these are good skills for people to have, because we're spiritual beings first in a body.
Why do you think that many people cut off their spiritual being, that they get caught up in the rat race of day to day, and they don't get in touch with their feelings or their emotions?
I think that there's a tremendous amount of fear, like I said, and they don't feel like they have time. Sometimes it's a lot of resistance. Sometimes it's they don't believe it's possible. They don't have a real strong belief system in anything, or their beliefs are a little too loose, kind of thing. They haven't really landed in something. The foundation. And I'm not talking about going to church every Sunday, but there's got to be a base. And the base is you. Getting to know yourself and getting to know your own energy and what feels right. And then I almost wish I went to a Catholic school. I went to in high school. put myself in a Catholic school just so I could take a break from the country because I was bored. And I was like, if I go to Catholic school, I get to go to school in more like the city part. And they had a free thing because we didn't have access to a Catholic school. There was this thing where my parents could send me for free. So I kind of figured out, it's like, I can go for free because I live in the country. So they were like, all right, if that's what you want to do. And when I got there, although I was appreciative of the opportunity, it just felt like there was more options for me there. What I was feeling spiritually in the country, connecting, wasn't the same as what I was feeling there. Yeah. And it caused me to be confused. I know God is real, and that's what they would teach, God, and they would be very structured about it and tell you what we need to follow and believe. But I'm like, I'm hearing you, but I'm not feeling it. And my guard started going up. Unknowingly, I started getting that distrust. This doesn't feel like the spirit I'm connecting with. And I'm sure it is the same spirit that I'm connecting with, but whatever it was, the way it was being presented it didn't feel right for me. It felt like a lot of judgment and control. Yeah.
The structure. Do you feel like the structure of the Catholic school, because it was very Catholic school is very structured and you have to do certain things. Do you feel like that maybe that might have been the block?
Yeah, I think that, I think a lot of it was myself going into a new school, having to make new friends, feeling like I don't fit in. A lot of that was coming up for me. Where do I belong? I just uprooted myself. My gut told me to do this, and I've done it. And I found a way to make it happen because I could have said there are obstacles, and I found a way through that. Obviously, Spirit wanted me in that direction. So I think I was definitely feeling very insecure. So naturally, my wall is going up. In terms of the teachings, my mother says that I was not happy at the way they were teaching. She says I would really complain. And her words, I would tell her they're trying to brainwash me.
I can see that, though, with the Catholic school. I can see that 100%.
So I went along to just get it done, but I did feel like I did not agree or like the way that it felt. It felt a little punitive to me, judgmental, a little pointy fingery kind of thing, which doesn't at all feel like the spirit I still connect with today.
Wow. So let's get into your book, Just Ask Spirit.
Yeah.
You have it there with you, right? So before we even start talking about it, you can read a part of it and then we can discuss it.
Okay. Any part I want?
Any part you want.
Oh, okay.
Any part that you feel led to read.
Okay. Well, there is a part. Let me just find it here. Sorry, I know we're recording, so
you're good.
This is all. Oh boy. I'll talk about the higher self a little bit on page 26. I'm there. Higher self is something I've heard described as a state of being in the absence of ego. And when I asked Spirit to give me more information on what it means to be in your higher self, I heard these words: universal intelligence, collective consciousness. And the higher self has no judgment and is very protective. And when you're connected to your higher self, you're no longer functioning as separate from. Instead, you are experiencing yourself as part of something greater. Higher self, there is no hierarchy, no separation. Everything just is. You no longer need to fight, control, manage, or hide from lower energies or emotions for that matter. Higher self is when you and your spirit are fully connected. You are operating from a different level, a level where peace, forgiveness, compassion, and patience live. And therefore, when you find yourself feeling like you want to be gentler, kinder to yourself and others, it is likely you are moving in connection to your higher self. And I encourage you to treat your higher self like a spirit, which it is. In other words, you can ask your higher self questions. Simply say, I call upon my higher self to learn more about, or I call upon my higher self to receive guidance about. And then I go on to talk about ways that you strengthen your higher self. So that's the part I wanted to read to you.
Higher self. You talk about finding peace and calmness. And in this political climate right now, and what the United States is going through right now, how can we find that peace and calmness? Because I know that a lot of people are struggling right now with that.
Yeah, I know it too. And I do feel for them. I think you have to be careful of projecting your thoughts, your feelings, your opinions out. And I know that's kind of what happens in the political world is there's a lot of projections. But from what my understanding is, to be connected to your higher self, your spirit, you have to go in. You have to drop inward. And when you project out onto the world, you're not coming from the inner space. Your inner power is inside. It's in your core being. And the more you project, the less protected you are. So if that helps you to watch it a little bit. And what I mean protected, well, now you're kind of susceptible to picking up other people's energies. So if I project out my anger, my fear, and it's funny because someone, I was just hearing from someone the other day, they go to a exercise class. I heard from two people this week. Interesting. I'm just realizing that. They go to a regular class, and they said, I just noticed that every class, the teacher somehow brings up something political. Every class. And they like the class. It's a great class. They're like, every time, like I can see once maybe, but it seems like it's every time there's got to be a comment or something, some way to kind of bring it in the space. So that's what projection feels like. And again, that person now projecting out, you've made yourself vulnerable to picking up other energies in the space. So if other people are feeling angry or upset, you're kind of, emotions are contagious.
For sure.
Yeah. So I think one way, and people feel like, okay, well, if I don't say how I feel, then it's not going to change. I don't see how projecting is changing anything. You have to go in. You're not powerless. You can create that change by dropping in and converting the energy, because we're all mirroring, we're all connected. We're all one in the end. And the more divided we are, so you have to stay the best you can. I would hang out with people that are more jiving with that.
Yeah.
If you find a community, a safe space where you can kind of let your guard down and not get ready for a projection of some sort, or lay off the social media or the news.
Social media and the news for sure. Because you do have to protect yourself, because I've heard, negative energy, if you put negative energy out, you're getting negative energy back. And if you put positive energy out, it's the law of attraction, you're getting that. So how do we go about doing that? How do we go about making sure that we're projecting the right energy?
Well, it's a sign when someone's projecting, it's a sign they're not processing their emotions. They're spewing their whatever, those are reactions. Those aren't emotions. So I think one way is just to get clear about that. Is this someone reacting, or is this true emotion? And it's most likely reacting, because reactions will always pull us apart. Emotions, this is what my spirit guides told me, will always bring us together. True, organic, raw emotions, unfiltered. So the way to help yourself is, number one, okay, you have to identify, am I around reactivity or am I around emotion? Does it make me feel close to someone, or empathy or compassion? Then it's likely this is reactivity I'm around. And I have to decide how much I want to be around that.
I love that. I love the fact that you say you have to figure out what you're around, the group that you're around. Because I think a lot of that is true. A lot of people, like, they're so busy worrying about what the Joneses are doing or in the competition with each other that they don't actually have real emotions for that people or real empathy for the people. And people tend to hide. And like you said, social media is a highlight reel. They don't give you the good, bad, and the ugly. They give us all the good stuff going on, but none of the bad stuff.
Yeah. And sometimes you do have to, gently, if that's happening, if someone's polluting the space, sometimes you do need to set boundaries or let someone know. I mean, there's sometimes businesses send out little evaluations or things like that. And that's your opportunity. You don't have to be mean about it, but say, I really enjoyed the class, but I'm not a fan of any political commentary. A lot of times, people just need to be reminded, oh, wow, what I'm doing is affecting someone. I didn't even realize it. Right? They probably don't even know. Or maybe they think they like it. Maybe they think, who knows? So sometimes you have to give a little feedback in a way where it can be received that, hey, could they tone down the political stuff? I'm here to de-stress. It always, what drives me crazy is when I go to a doctor's office for like an annual exam and they're playing like the news. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, way to shoot up everyone's blood pressure, right? I used to go to a doctor's office where it's like you watch the news while you're waiting, or the lab, when they take blood and they have the news on, and like, makes no sense. Like, you're polluting us, and then you're telling us we're checking on our health. People need to live in alignment. Like, be what you are. Don't say I'm for health and then play the news in the waiting room.
That is so true. You also mentioned in the book about crystals. What crystals are good to have on hand? Because I think that's important. A lot of people, like, for instance, I know that I have a purple, I forget what the name, what it's called. Yeah, an amethyst crystal. And the far left corner, or far right corner of my office, because that says that brings abundance. So I have it stashed. I mean, I can't see it right now because it's over here in this corner, but it brings in it. I see it. And even when we built onto the blog cabin, I like, okay, it's going in that little spot. What crystals do we need to have on hand, especially to help us, especially during this, what is this? The Mercury retrograde.
Mercury retrograde,
and the eclipse going on, all the stuff going on in the solar system, in the universe, for us.
So you want calming ones, and what you don't want to do is stick on a quartz if you're having a negative, because quartz is an amplifier. So I have a quartz on right here. This is a quartz. This is an amplifier. So if I'm having a bad day and I'm having negative thoughts, probably don't want to have quartz on my arm. It's like a manifesting crystal, amplify it. So be mindful, even though it looks pretty and everything. I want to be conscious of what I'm putting on. And then I always have the amethyst like you. So I usually wear the bracelets. So I have several, you can see all my crystals on here. So I have the amethyst, which is great for grounding. It's great for anxiety, very protective quality. I always like a black tourmaline, which is this here. Tourmaline is good for negativity. So I always make sure I have black tourmaline, or an onyx, anything. If you're at work and you're at a lot of negative people, you want to have black onyx or a black tourmaline on you, and make sure you clear them because they absorb energy. You can take a little incense and clear them. You can put them under the full moon. We have second eclipse coming up. We just had a full moon. We have 2 eclipses this month. So we're going to get double whammy. So put them outside, because that'll help you clear them. And then there's like moonstone, which is a wonderful stone for calming. Rose quartz is always good. Just make sure you're not wearing any amplifiers, and make sure you have ones for negativity if you're someone who's around a lot of energy, in the public and things like that, and clear them. Because it's like everything, they absorb energy. It's like, you want to take showers at night if you can. If you're someone who's carrying around a lot, a shower before you go to bed can help with that. Or if you have trouble sleeping, taking a shower at the, change your ritual around, because you might just be like a little bit of a sponge.
That makes a lot of sense, because when you take the shower, you're just like clearing off and you're like de-stressing because the water just runs over you.
Where you're, wash your clothes and things like that. It's all energy. So I had a client that wears a uniform and was under high stress, and every night they're hanging their uniform in their room, like on a hanger. It's like a routine. I'm like, you need to get that uniform out of your room. Right. For one, it's carrying all the energy from the day. Go hang it outside. Do you have a porch or something where it can release, whatever it is that you're carrying if you're around a lot of intensity. So if you're in healthcare or law enforcement, fire, whatever you do, just be mindful of the energy, be responsible for it.
Yeah, I love all this. And like I told you before you came on, I know you're going to have to come back on again because our time is almost up. And I still have more talking points that we didn't even get to that I wanted to talk about. So with that, before we talk about where people can find you, where they can find the book, is there one last thing that you want to share? Either something we touched upon or something we haven't touched upon that you think your spirit guides are leading you to share right now?
Well, my motto, and this came from Spirit, I have two mottos. One is your emotions matter. They absolutely matter, but processing them matters more. That is my motto I live by. They absolutely matter. Processing them matters more. So that's the cleanse that you'll find in the Just Ask Spirit book, as well as all of my other books. That was channeled from Spirit. The second thing that Spirit said is, if you don't feel, you won't ask.
Both of them are so good.
If you just sit with that and you realize a lot of times we don't ask Spirit for anything. It's rare. You had a moment where you said, okay, I need to talk to Spirit here, right? And you got a reading and all that kind of stuff. But, really, you want it to be a daily practice, talking to Spirit.
Yeah, I love that. So where can people find you?
They can find me at my website, sheriannaboyle.com. Thank you for putting it there. And, they can find my programs. I do a lot of retreats if anyone needs to get away, weekend retreats, week-long retreats, Just Ask Spirit. I blend my emotional detox with Just Ask Spirit work. And then I have a community there where they can practice connecting and asking if they looking, because I do think being in a group atmosphere can help build that muscle for sure. Oh, they're all over. I've got international, one in Italy that will be in 2026. I've got actually one in New York, one in a couple in Massachusetts. Yeah, but there are beautiful places, like really, places where you would want to go on retreat for sure. All inclusive kind of thing. So you don't have to do a lot of thinking, and you don't have to do any planning or anything like that.
Yeah. And then your book, Just Ask Spirit.
Yeah, Just Ask Spirit. You can get my website or anywhere all books are sold, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Just Ask Spirit.
And I also put up on your author's page on Amazon, if people want to peruse all the other books that you have. I'm making sure I pulled up the author's page, because if I listed every single solitary book, we'd be here for.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, like, this is definitely, and what I love about this book is not only do you talk about it, but you also give practical tips. I'm trying to see if I can find a place where it's at, where you like give people a chance to actually fill in the blanks here.
Yes, it's like a journal. Part 3 is a guidebook. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I think that's very important, that people get a chance to just like you said, free your emotions, because the thing says free your emotions to energize intuition and discover purpose. And that's important.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you're saying, okay, if your spirit is God or Mother Mary or whoever, that's great. You're not poo-pooing the religions part of it. People that are religious, but you're just saying connect with Earth, connect with the universe, connect with the spiritual beings around you. And that's important.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Sherianna, thank you for coming on and for sharing. And like I said, I want you back on for sure, because I still have more that I want to talk about.
Thank you. Anytime. Thanks for inviting me into the cabin.
You're welcome. Maybe one day you'll actually be in the cabin.
In the cabin. Sounds wonderful.
So guys, I will put in the show notes everywhere you can find Sherianna, as well as her books and her book, Just Ask Spirit. I highly recommend this. She did say the Audible version is going to come out pretty soon. You're working on that right now, right? Somebody's working on it for you.
Yeah, I'm not narrating. I could have, but I didn't have it in my wheel. I just was overextended. So there's going to be a beautiful narrator on it. It's going to narrate that book. Yes, it'll be out soon. Yeah.
But if you buy the Kindle version, and if you have a Kindle, you can actually let it talk to you and hear it already. Or you can do something really cool on your iPhone that you can make it read the pages for you. So that's what I did when I bought it, because I downloaded it. I mean, this tells you how good this book is. Not only did I get a free copy, I downloaded the Kindle version, bought the Kindle version, because I wanted to listen to it to make sure that once I had the first couple of chapters in, I'm like, I need to listen to this, because there's no way I want to be able to get through all of this all at one time.
I still look at it now and then. Literally, I'll be like, I got to look at my book, a resource right now.
So thank you so much for coming on. And until next time, guys, keep chatting and connect with your spirit.